A pale breeze drifted through the oak trees, carrying the faint scent of fir needles and crisp autumn air, when Evelyn Parker first noticed the splinter on the flagpole. For more than 2 decades, that small white pole had stood steady in her front yard on Elm Street, marking sunrise and sunset in Greenwood Springs. At 76, she regarded it as her last tether to the life she once shared with Henry, her husband of 40 years. Each morning, just after dawn's light spilled across her bedroom window, Evelyn would shuffle downstairs to her kitchen. The floorboards creaked beneath her knitted slippers as she prepared a pot of dark roasted coffee. The rich aroma mingled with the earthiness of fallen leaves gathered along the driveway leaves that crunched beneath her feet when she crossed to the front yard. Outside, the temperature hovered around 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and the sky faintly glowed in pastel lavender. She paused to swing open the front door, reaching for the brass crank that raised the American flag on that thin white pole. A soft whoosh accompanied the flag as it caught the wind, its red and white stripes unfurling against the deep blue field of stars. Over the years, neighbors had seen Evelyn's ritual as a comforting constant. In summer, the pole gleamed under scorching 90-degree sun. In winter, it braved icy gusts and light dustings of snow. But to Evelyn, it symbolized something far deeper, the promises she and Henry had made on their wedding day, standing beneath that same flag before a small gathering of friends and family. He had built the pole himself, driving each wooden segment deep into the ground, painting it white by hand. After his passing 2 autumns ago, Evelyn continued the ritual alone. The flag became her way of honoring his memory day after day, year after year. This morning, however, everything felt off. She squinted at the flagpole as she sipped her coffee on the porch. The wind had picked up to a steady 10 miles per hour, rustling the maple leaves that drifted in lazy spirals down Elm Street. Across the street, Mr. Caldwell's pickup rumbled past, its rusty exhaust trailing behind. Evelyn set her mug on the railing and rose slowly, joints aching from decades of household chores. The pole wobbled faintly, an unusual tremor that sent a twinge through her chest. Before she could step forward, a sudden crack split the air. It was not the gentle creak of wood settling, but a sharp snap that echoed down the quiet lane. Evelyn's heart pounded as she watched the top third of the flagpole twist and fall, the flag snapping free and fluttering to the ground like a wounded bird. The white paint fractured, exposing raw splinters of pine beneath. She froze, breath catching in her throat as the serrated end of the pole pierced the soft grass like a wounded sentinel. Memories flooded her mind, the day Henry had hammered that final nail, sweat beading on his brow as he stepped back to admire his work. The 4th of July picnics when children chased fireflies under the flag's protective shadow. The day she wrapped her coat around him after he'd fallen ill, the two of them sharing a silent farewell on that very porch. Now she stood alone. The coffee turned lukewarm in her trembling hand as she took hesitant steps toward the broken pole. The crisp scent of damp earth rose to greet her, mingling with the faint odor of gasoline from a passing lawnmower. She knelt to pick up the tattered flag, the fabric rough against her aged fingers. The red stripes were smeared with dirt. The blue field, once vibrant, seemed faded and sorrowful under the dim morning light. A sudden gust of wind whipped through the yard, scattering a handful of golden leaves across her feet. The pole lay fractured at an awkward angle, its base still anchored to the ground, but splitting like a broken backbone. Evelyn's throat tightened. She sank onto the wooden porch step, eyes reddening as tears blurred her vision. The weight of solitude pressed down on her chest, and for the first time since Henry's passing, she felt truly untethered. She rose slowly, pressing trembling palms to the railing for support. Across the street, a group of teenagers on bicycles slowed, cameras in hand. One of them raised a smartphone, filming the ruined pole in Evelyn's trembling form. She caught a fragment of their mocking laughter, the sudden sting of humiliation, sharper than the morning cold. A caption appeared in her mind. "100 flag fail," she thought, recalling how quickly things spread on social media. The humiliation of being seen exposed in her grief made her collapse beside the shattered base. Evelyn cradled the flag in her lap, the fabric damp from dew and punctured by a stray nail. She closed her eyes, feeling the world tilt beneath her sorrow. In that moment, the front yard transformed from a place of cherished memories into a barren landscape of loss. Now, with the symbol torn away, she wondered if her own purpose had been severed as neatly as the wood. As the wind tugged at her scarf and the last coffee drip cooled on the porch, Evelyn drew a shuddering breath. The sight of the broken pole haunted her, but within that ache, a spark of something unspoken flickered, a desire to reclaim what had been lost, to mend the tattered remnants of her past. But for now, only the emptiness remained, accompanied by the soft patter of leaves drifting toward the broken base. A single maple leaf, golden brown and trembling on the lawn, caught the morning light. It floated toward Evelyn, landing gracefully on the ruined wood. She stared at it, her breath catching, as the chill of realization settled deep in her bones. Without that pole, her connection to Henry felt severed. And though her heart pounded with grief, one thought emerged through the tears: she could not let that symbol vanish completely. Even after the dawn passed, the pain still lingered in Evelyn Parker's heart as she sat huddled beside the splintered flagpole. Seeing that golden maple leaf fall onto the rotting wood made her feel as if every memory with her husband was fracturing. Her breath came out in clouds in the chilly 50 centimeter air, and the damp, earthy scent of wet soil clung to every fiber of her velvet green coat. Across the street, neighbors shuffled by, casting curious glances her way. The modern scene of Greenwood Springs was on full display, a silver sedan gliding past the faint strains of Amazing Grace, drifting from the nearby convenience store's radio. But in Evelyn's mind, everything felt buried. A few teenagers on bicycles stopped to watch, smirking as they recorded her quietly gathering up the wet flag. On their small screens, they added hashtags like Kiri, Flag Fail, and You Old Lady Drama, creating a raucous wave of ridicule. Their laughter and the sound of passing car tires made her chest tighten. She placed her gnarled hand on the old stone bench near the flagpole, where her husband used to sit and tell stories of his military days. The stone seat was cold to the touch, its long crack deeply etched by decades of weather. Whenever the wind rustled through the bench, sighed as if it understood her loneliness. Every falling leaf created a hushed rustle that felt both gentle and sorrowful. Tears streamed down her cheeks, mixing with the morning dew still clinging to the fallen maple leaves. She turned her face into the wool scarf wrapped around her neck, trying to stifle her sobs, but every invisible moment clung to her. In the wind, she thought she heard the whisper of hundreds of leaves stirring alone. Alone. Those feelings gnawed at her every second like the thin mist that invaded every corner. The front door of the convenience store swung open, the tinkling bell alerting shoppers. Evelyn tried to stand, lifting one foot at a time, but she could still hear the murmured comments from the teenagers. "She's lost her mind, crying over that old flagpole. Come on, who cares about that ancient piece of wood in the 4.0 era?" Watching them turn away, filming her on their phones, she felt humiliated. Behind her, the broken flagpole and bench were all that remained. She was suddenly exposed in her grief, alone with her sorrow. Inside, she shuffled back into the living room, where the glow of the chandelier's light revealed shadows of gloom. The 60-watt bulbs could not dispel the darkness that filled her soul. She collapsed onto the floor beside an old photograph on the oak shelf, an image of her and her husband standing under that very flag on a warm, 68-degree summer afternoon. She gently traced the glass of the frame, studying every wrinkle etched onto their faces. The ticking of the wall clock filled the room with a steady cadence, each tick a reminder that time marched on, even as her pain grew heavier. Her loneliness was not confined to this moment. Over the past weeks, she had ventured outside, far less avoiding the curious stares of neighbors. The small back porch where she used to sit and read was now covered in dead leaves and the smell of damp grass. She had tried calling her old friend Marjorie, only to hear a gentle shake of the head on the other end. "I'm too busy these days, Evelyn. Let's catch up another time." Those words cut through her like a knife, reminding her that few people truly cared about her anguish. Every morning she awoke with a glimmer of hope, but stepping onto the floor and turning to the window brought her face to face with the shattered flagpole, the broken wood, and the mud-stained flag. The memory of that sight struck her like a warning. No one but she loved that little symbol. She reached for the old radio on the bookshelf, tuning it to the local station FM 88.3, and as God Bless America played softly, she found herself weeping again. On her phone's screen, a new comment had appeared: "Old lady crying over a flagpole who pities her." She locked the screen and sank to the wooden walnut floor, clutching the burgundy wool scarf that Henry had given her. Each stitch in the scarf felt like a promise of love from years ago, now the only thing holding her back from the abyss of despair. Evening shadows began to fall as she struggled to stand, shuffling down the long pine hallway to the bedroom window facing the backyard. Outside, it was 50 degrees, and a gentle breeze rustled through the ginkgo trees. She watched a few golden maple leaves drift past the glass and settle on the windowsill, a silent symbol of time passing and quiet solitude. Each leaf, each gust of wind reminded her of memories with her husband, now also a symbol of her deepest loneliness. She pressed her palm to the window, her chest heavy, feeling the waves of sadness and anger at the community's indifference. In her heart, a thought took shape: she had to do something to show Greenwood Springs that the flag was more than just a piece of fabric. But first, she needed to overcome her fear and embarrassment. Drawing in a deep breath, she prepared to find the courage she had lost. The clock's steady tick echoed through the hushed room, urging her not to remain trapped in her isolation. Slowly, Evelyn lifted the wool coat and took cautious steps back down the hallway. Each step echoed her pain. Ahead lay a new mission to restore the symbol and reclaim her place in the community. But for now, she gazed out at the broken flagpole in the yard and whispered to herself, "Tomorrow I will do something." Even after nights of sorrow, Evelyn Parker stood before her mail slot gloved hand, tightening around the invitation official letterhead from the city of Greenwood Springs. Less than 24 hours earlier, neighbors had sneered at her grief, and a mocking video labeled "Mish Flag Fail" had circulated online. Now the invitation read, "Join us at Greenwood Springs Town Square this Friday at 10 a.m. for a ceremony honoring Ms. Evelyn Parker." In her chest, grief and hope wove together like wind through golden maple leaves. Friday morning arrived with a crisp 48-degree chill. A thin layer of frost still clung to the stone benches lining Market Street as townspeople gathered in the town square, feet crunching on fallen leaves carried by a gentle 5 km breeze. The square's limestone fountain, silent for months, stood dark in the center, while a temporary stage had been erected nearby 20 feet wide and raised about 3 feet off the ground. A new flagpole, freshly painted white and standing 20 feet tall, towered behind the stage, its gleaming surface contrasting with the old bricks of the municipal building. At exactly 10 a.m., Mayor Jasmine Rodriguez stepped forward to the podium, her navy blue blazer crisp under the overcast sky. The crowd, residents from every street, neighbors who once turned away, fell silent. A camera crew from the local news station adjusted its tripod lenses, focusing on the gathering. A large banner overhead read, "Greenwood Springs honors our own Evelyn Parker." Mayor Rodriguez's voice carried across the square. "Today we gather not to dwell on misfortune, but to recognize perseverance." She waved to Evelyn, who watched from the front row in a burgundy coat clutching her wool scarf. "Evelyn, you have shown us that something as simple as a flag can hold deep meaning. You remind us that respect and memory are worth preserving." Suddenly, a brass quintet struck up "America the Beautiful," the melody poignant against the rustling of oak leaves. Evelyn felt her heart swell as the younger years of picnics and community events replayed in her mind. She recalled how Henry once led her here, under this very melody, to hang the first flag. Now she stared at the shimmering stripes rising skyward. The ceremony continued as the Greenwood Springs Veterans Association presented a wreath of crimson roses. Commander Paul Barnes, his uniform adorned with a Silver Star ribbon, approached the podium. "In recognition of Ms. Evelyn Parker's steadfast dedication, we present this wreath as a symbol of honor and remembrance." He paused, voice thick with emotion. "Your husband's legacy lives on in every flutter of this flag." As the belt clicked back on his jacket, a young man stepped forward, Jason Miller, the same teenager who had earlier filmed the mocking video. His face, once smug, now bore lines of remorse. Microphones captured his trembling apology. "I am sorry for my callousness. I did not understand what this flag meant to Ms. Parker or to this town. I hope in whatever small way to help restore what I helped break." The crowd murmured before erupting into warm applause. Mayor Rodriguez nodded at Jason and handed him a length of braided rope. Jason stepped toward the base of the flagpole and coupled with a pair of local Boy Scouts to help hoist the new flag. As they tugged, the crowd counted down 3, 2, 1. The flag reached the top, catching the breeze. Its crimson stripes and bright blue canton glowed against the 35-foot-tall brick facade behind it. A collective cheer rang out, drowned only by the triumphant blast of the bugle playing taps to honor both past and present. Social media lit up instantly. Hashtags like "Warren Honor Evelyn" and "Greenwood Pride" trended as videos of the flag raising filled Facebook and TikTok feeds. Comments shifted from scorn to admiration. "What a resilient woman, Greenwood Springs done right." "Thank you, Evelyn." Even longtime skeptics posted, "I was wrong, my apologies." Following the ceremony, Evelyn stepped to the podium for her address. Her voice, though quivering, at first gained strength. "This flag represents my husband's memory and the unity of our community. To lose it felt like losing a part of my very soul. But today I see that when we come together, young and old, neighbor and stranger, we can mend what's broken." She gestured to the flag overhead. "Let this symbol remind us to stand by one another, to treat each other with kindness and respect. I treasure every leaf that drifts in this breeze, for it carries our shared memories forward." As she spoke, a gentle breeze stirred the maple leaves overhead, swirling them in golden spirals along the sidewalks. Children from the local middle school, dressed in blue uniforms, filed past the stage afterward, distributing small laminated cards that bore Evelyn's words, "Respect is embroidered in every stitch of our shared history." When the last note of her speech faded, townspeople offered handshakes and embraces. Jason stood by her side, his finger pointing to the solid white base of the new pole. "I promise to help maintain this every season, Miss Parker." Evelyn offered a soft smile and nodded. By noon, the square overflowed with chatter, residents swapping stories of service tea and apple cider, steaming on folding tables manned by the Senior Citizens Club. The gentle laughter and shared warmth replaced the earlier chill, forging new memories beneath the waving flag. As Evelyn walked back to her house that afternoon, she traced her fingers along the fallen maple leaves, their veins like tiny pathways of gold. In her heart, she carried the hope that this honor would endure an unbroken bond linking her to Greenwood Springs, sewn together by every flutter of red, white, and blue. Even after the dawn dawned on the maple leaves, the memory of the ceremony still shone brightly in Evelyn Parker's mind. When the new flag flew atop the 20-foot pole, she had felt the warm solidarity of Greenwood Springs, a newfound pride born from loss and the recent honoring. 4 months after the solemn ceremony on a late morning day, in the same month, the outside temperature held at around 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and a thin veil of frost still clung to the old brick pathway in front of her house. Evelyn, now 77, quietly opened the small iron gate leading into her backyard. The weathered brick path was still half covered with green moss, but the miniature flagpole, nearly 4 feet tall, was proudly mounted along the walkway. Beneath the pole, a small bronze plaque read, "Memorial Flag for Greenwood Springs Veterans." Every morning, Evelyn stood before that small flagpole, gently touching the fluttering flag, remembering the journey and lessons that would never fade. In the living room, her portrait with her husband still stood honorably on the oak shelf. Next to it lay a leather-bound journal where she recorded the stories of the local veterans community. Today, she welcomed 2 high school girls, Mia and Sophia, 2 active members of the Greenwood Veterans Club, each wearing the old wool scarf tied around her neck. Mia carried a packet of chrysanthemum seeds, and Sophia held a bag of soil mixed with organic compost. They gave warm smiles as their footsteps softly echoed on the walnut wood floor. "Good morning, Ms. Evelyn," Mia said warmly. "Today, Sophia and I will help you plant flowers around the small flagpole so that this area will always be vibrant each season." Evelyn smiled, her eyes sparkling. "That's wonderful, girls. I am very grateful for your youthful hands to tend this place." She gestured toward the patch of wildflowers running along the front porch. "Last season, many maple leaves fell. But because you remembered to water and weed, this area has become so different." They stepped out into the yard where the temperature was now 50 degrees. The sound of sparrows singing filled the garden corner as Sophia used a small shovel to dig holes. Evelyn gently guided them, saying, "Plant the chrysanthemums here, leaving about 2 feet from the base of the pole. When they bloom, the entire backyard will give off a gentle fragrance." Mia and Sophia listened carefully, planting and watering each blossom. Their light laughter warmed the chill, while golden maple leaves, drifting across the roof, formed a dreamy autumn tableau. In another corner of town, the commemorative wooden sign for the new flagpole had also been unveiled. Each small ceremony from spring to winter, the residents gathered to honor Evelyn. The old speaker played the American national anthem at 7:00 a.m. on a fixed schedule every day. Members of the Greenwood Veterans Club swept away fallen leaves and tidied around the base of the pole, humming "America the Beautiful." On social media, the hashtag #YourGreenwoodYouth spread videos filled with emotion. Mia, Sophia, and another friend, Jasmine, each a 10th grader, took turns changing potted flowers at the pole's base and hung a string of small lights to decorate for the year-end festival. They posted images of the miniature flag Evelyn had gifted them, with captions, "Learning to preserve memories and gratitude." Those videos garnered thousands of likes and comments. "Greenwood Springs shines with these girls." "Thank you, Evelyn, for inspiring the younger generation. True value is preserving, not owning." Neighbors sat on the old park bench in the garden corner, chatting about Evelyn. "She has shown us what resilience looks like," said 82-year-old Miss Margaret, leaning on her cane. "I'm so grateful we learned to appreciate her." 75-year-old Mr. Thomas nodded. "Every morning I still hear the old speaker play the national anthem and feel moved thinking back to those days." Now everyone greets Evelyn with warm smiles. The old stone bench where her husband once sat had been freshly painted and placed next to the small flagpole. On the back of the bench, a bronze plate was etched, "Memorial Bench for Henry Parker, the silent leader." That scene brought tears to Evelyn's eyes as she closed her eyes in remembrance of her husband. The rustle of falling leaves against the bench and the autumn breeze brushing through the ginkgo trees whispered the memories of the past. One late afternoon in that month, as the sun lowered and the temperature dropped to 45 degrees, Evelyn walked with Mia, Sophia, and Jasmine to the town square. They hung small red, white, blue banners on every lamppost inscribed with the words, "Preserve Respect." The bright LED streetlights lit up spectacularly as on the day of the honoring ceremony. The voices of the students echoed throughout the square honor. The memory preserved the value residents gathered around snack stands, enjoying apple pie and hot cider. Mr. Miller, who had once recorded the mocking video, stood beside Evelyn, handing her two small potted chrysanthemum plants and orchids. "Miss Parker, today is my father's birthday," he said softly. "I hope there will be many more beautiful memories under this flag." Evelyn gave a gentle smile, her gaze warm. "Remember the meaning of sharing, thank you." As night fell, the streetlights along Market Street cast light upon the small flagpole, as maple leaves drifted down, creating flickering trails of gold. Members of the Greenwood Veterans Club formed a circle around holding candles, singing "God Bless America." Their voices, filled with emotion, dispelled the evening chill. Evelyn watched the miniature flag wave one last time before stepping away from the square's gate. In her heart, she carried the firm belief that this symbol would never vanish. It would live on in every heart willing to preserve it. And when the flag soared with the wind each dawn under the sunrise, Greenwood Springs would know that value never truly disappears. It lives on through meaningful silent acts. Even though the first light of morning had long been replaced by the warm glow of midday, Evelyn Parker still felt a gentle flutter in her heart when she passed the town clock at 8:00 a.m., its hands pointing to a steady 70-degree tour, and the oak trees at Greenwood Springs Public Library, letting fall soft amber leaves. It had been nearly a year since the Great Flag Revival, the day that forever reshaped her life and the community's spirit. As she paused at the library's wrought iron gate, Catherine Moore, the head librarian, greeted her with a nod. "Good morning, Miss Evelyn. The exhibit is nearly ready for the youth program this afternoon." Evelyn's soft smile revealed both pride and nostalgia. The exhibit inside featured photographs of the original flagpole, the broken fragments, and the monumental ceremony when the new 20-foot pole was raised. Beside each image, handwritten notes from her leather-bound journal described the journey from loss to honor. The exhibit's centerpiece, however, was a small glass case containing a single golden maple leaf pressed gently into a page of archival paper. That very leaf had drifted onto the shattered wood the morning the pole had snapped, igniting a quest that united Greenwood Springs. At exactly 2:00 p.m., when the sun's warm rays filtered through stained glass windows, casting vibrant patterns on the oak-paneled floor, Evelyn stood before a group of 12 teenagers from Greenwood Springs High School. Their faces observed her with rapt attention as she recited the story once more. "This leaf fell on the morning my world was broken," she began, her voice steady yet tinged with emotion. The teens leaned forward, absorbing every word. "It reminded me that even in our darkest moments, a single spark, no matter how small, can light the way forward." The room was filled with the scent of old books, mingled with the faint aroma of pumpkin spice from the cafe downstairs. Across the courtyard, children's laughter drifted upward from the playground, where a group of fifth graders sat beneath a new gazebo painting small wooden flags in red, white, and blue. Both inside and out, Greenwood Springs was alive with reminders of the flag's legacy, new traditions blossoming from old seeds of hope. After her talk, Evelyn guided the teenagers to the library's rear garden, where a newly planted silver maple tree had been dedicated to the memory of community resilience. Its slender trunk rose a mere 8 feet, but its branches stretched outward with bright green leaves that would turn radiant orange in the coming weeks. Beneath its canopy, a polished granite bench bore the inscription, "In honor of those who stand firm when storms come." One of the students, Benjamin Carter, no relation to the former lieutenant, placed his hand gently on the bark. "This tree is so peaceful," he said quietly. "It reminds me of Miss Evelyn's strength." The other teens nodded in agreement as another young girl, Lily Rodriguez, the mayor's granddaughter, knelt to scatter a handful of wildflower seeds around the tree's base, ensuring color and life would return with each passing spring. As the afternoon sun dipped toward 65 degrees, Evelyn paused beside the miniature flagpole, now part of the garden's design. She traced her fingertips over the small bronze plaque memorial flag for Greenwood Springs veterans. Around her, the teens took turns hoisting a 12-inch flag on the pole, saluting as its stripes caught the breeze. A photographer from the local paper snapped pictures, capturing the smiles and quiet reverence of every student. Toward evening, the town's veterans arrived to oversee a final tradition, the ceremonial lighting of 4 lanterns at the base of the silver maple one for each season of the year. As dusk settled and the sky cooled to 60 degrees, the lanterns glowed like beacons. Each carried a small card: winter's courage, spring's renewal, summer's service, and autumn's gratitude. Evelyn lit the first 2 and asked the veterans to light the remaining ones. The flickering flames reflected in her clear gray eyes, reminding her of countless candle-lit vigils that had once been held in honor of those who served. A hush fell over the garden as the community members, old and young, stood in silent unity. From the library's front steps to the nearby cafe, people paused work or conversation to watch the lanterns glow. Overhead, a crisp breeze rustled the maple's leaves, sending a cascade of golden droplets fluttering to the ground, each leaf a testament to enduring values. Before she left, Evelyn placed a single red chrysanthemum by the tree's roots and gave the small wooden flag one last gentle wave. At that moment, she felt the promise she had made to herself the day the original pole had broken to keep alive the spirit of respect and service. And as she stepped back onto the brick pathway, she realized that Greenwood Springs' legacy was no longer just about a flag or a ceremony. It lived within every leaf, every lantern, and every heart that chose to stand together when the winds of adversity blew. Even as the streetlights of early winter flickered on, the Parker family awoke to visible puffs of breath in the chilly 44-degree air. Evelyn, now 78, walked slowly along the brick walkway in front of her house, her calloused hand warming inside a thick glove. By her side was her granddaughter Lily, 12 years old, wearing a wool scarf patterned with tiny flags that Evelyn had knitted herself. Lily held her grandmother's hand tightly, her eyes shining with pride. In front of their home, the miniature flagpole still stood tall, its red, white, and blue flag stretched taut in the gentle breeze, decorated with a garland of evergreen and a cluster of lights wrapped around its shaft. Today was the second anniversary of the day Evelyn Parker founded the Greenwood Springs Veterans Club. The temperature was slightly higher at 50 degrees, but the brick path still bore a sheen of frost. The soft crunch of leaves under passing shoes mixed with the gentle jingle of the convenience store door, opening off in the distance. But in Evelyn's heart, only one image mattered: the small flag fluttering in the winter air. By 9:00 a.m., the club members had gathered around the flagpole, veterans seated on wooden benches placed around it, and a group of teenagers led by Lily. Mia and Sophia, now 11th graders, carried pots of bright red roses, symbols of gratitude and hope. Jasmine, now class president of 10th grade, held a small pennant flag dangling from her backpack, straps her smile radiant like the winter sunshine. The older men and women wore heavy coats and greeted Evelyn with warm smiles as she appeared in a deep-colored knit cardigan. At 9:30 a.m., Evelyn stepped onto a wooden platform set on the concrete, where photos filled the backdrop. Images of last year's flag-raising ceremony, the community gathered under the silver maple tree, and the banner reading, "Preserve Respect." She inhaled deeply, taking in the fragrance of damp earth, mingled with strength from her coffee cups placed on a nearby table. The distant hum of a slow-moving vehicle on the gravel road signaled the ceremony's imminent start. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her warm voice carrying across the assembly. "Today we gather once again to remember and carry on the values we have protected." Below the platform, the school's lion dance troupe performed in vibrant pink costumes, the steady beat of their drums echoing greetings. Their flowing ao-dai garments fluttered as they moved, crafting a melodious choreography that warmed the winter air. The performers circled the flagpole, scattering red maple leaves around it, an honorific ring of natural tribute. Mayor Rodriguez, who herself had attended last year's dedication, stepped forward beside Evelyn, wearing a burgundy wool coat. She spoke with genuine affection. "Because of Miss Evelyn, we learned that value isn't material. It's emotion, it's spirit. It's what we give to one another in times of hardship." She handed the microphone to a veteran, Mr. Barnes, who had represented the Veterans Club at last year's ceremony. "I wish Miss Evelyn continued health so she can keep teaching us and future generations." At that moment, Mia approached with her pot of roses. "Ms. Evelyn," she said softly, "on behalf of the younger generation, I present this pot of roses so that each bloom symbolizes a hope that our flag and our memories will always blossom in the hearts of Greenwood Springs." Evelyn brushed away tears, her eyes glistening with happiness. The sun climbed higher, warming to 55 degrees as the students took turns planting red roses and white chrysanthemums around the base of the silver maple tree. The steady thud of shovels hitting earth mingled with the gentle clinking of bowls and cups as elders fetched soil, filling small holes with careful hands. Laughter and friendly chatter filled the air, dispelling the winter chill. At the end of the ceremony, Evelyn and the members formed a line before the miniature flagpole. A student held a small paper flag aloft, and the crowd shouted in unison, "Values never fade. They live on in our hearts." At that very moment, a gentle breeze stirred, and a cascade of red maple leaves fluttered down like golden rain, each one a reminder that legacy endures through time. As Evelyn turned to leave, Lily squeezed her hand tightly. "Grandma," Lily whispered, "this flag and this maple tree will live on, just like the love you have for Grandpa." Evelyn nodded, her gaze full of warmth. "Yes, my dear. As long as we stand together, that legacy will never be lost." Above Greenwood Springs, those falling red maple leaves drifted silently, carrying with them an unending belief that every heart here would bear witness, preserving the timeless values of respect and community.